I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all of the difference. In our lifetime, we will travel many roads, some long and winding, some short and brief, and some that may lead to who knows where. But there is one road we will all come to face someday, and that is the road less traveled. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dennis Carroll, and I am your host for The Road Less Traveled, Episode 11. And here is our other gracious host, Mr. Gerald Fountain. How
Hi,
you doing
everybody.
this evening? All right. We have a fantastic show lined up for you, ladies and gentlemen, tonight. We have sort of a double whammy for you. We got two subjects we're going to be looking at, and that's phantom sounds and out of place objects. So we're gonna be we're going down a very strange road tonight. Absolutely, definitely a road less traveled for sure. You been doing, Joe?
Oh, we've been outside checking out the meteor showers, or like me and Dennis was talking that we used to call them falling stars when we were kids. And we happened to catch the northern lights dipping down into Illinois. So we got some good pictures and some videos of that we put up on Midwest Night Watchers and our personal Facebook pages. And so that's what we did till about 4 a.m. last night.
I hope you don't get a crick in your neck. Look it up, Ollie. We used to, when I was a kid, we used to have those lounge chairs that you could let back, That was the perfect way to sky watch. Kind of lay back and just look straight up,
Well,
I've done a lot of sky watching in my time.
the mosquitoes aren't bad and the chiggers don't get you. We used to lay on the grass and look up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the chiggers and the ticks and the mosquitoes definitely would feast upon you for sure. Absolutely. All right. Well, I'd say shout out some of the people out here tonight. There's Shiro and Crystal and Roger Blair, a little Kilroy's here, and Demaria and Urso and Ace Miner. Hello, and Conspiracy Music. And we're starting to fill up out here. Absolutely. That's John Fortman is here. I think that would be Coco. And somebody named Midwest Night Watchers. I don't know who that was.
Yeah, where's he from?
From somewhere up north there. Out in the Midwest. That name was my first clue anyway. Well, we have some interesting stuff to go over tonight. I'm going to make an announcement for my seminar coming up Wednesday night at 8 o'clock now. This will be 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central Time. And it's going to be on Hunting the Shadows. Seminar is going to be a very special one. You do not want to miss this. And it's Monster Hunting 101. Okay, we're going to be talking about paracryptology. Okay, paracryptology. That is the study of monsters. Okay. So we're going to be doing a seminar on that, and it's going to be a really good one, I hope, and everybody's going to enjoy that maybe. And we will have that on us 8 o'clock now. I'm starting this one a little early. Usually I start at 9, but I'm starting this a little early and get it done there. But you will trust me, you have never ever seen a podcast quite like this one Wednesday night. You don't want to miss it, okay? And what you got coming up, Gerald? By the way, you got anything coming up this week?
Oh, we always got something coming up. We'll probably have the Night Owl Lounge again on Wednesday night. So if anybody wants to hang out in our chat and listen to some music and maybe some sky watching, that'll start at 10 p.m. Central and probably go to 2, 3 in the morning, like usual. And Saturday night, we have our other podcast I do with Professor Robert Bauer and Jim Goodall and Mr. B from Australia and Conspiracy Music that's in chat with us now, Clay. We do a show called Geezer Geeks, and that'll be on Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Then Sunday, we have our Piercing the Veil.
All right. Sound like you got a full itinerary there.
Yeah, we do 3 or 4 podcasts a week, it seems like.
That's good. I want to give a shout out to my good friend BMR. That's Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Got a new book out, and we'll be talking to him about that pretty soon. And give another shout out to our good friend Jessica, the Cryptid. Please check her channel out. She had a great show with Steve Stockton, I think, the other night. That was a really good show. And check those out if you get a chance. And we will begin our subject tonight. We're going to start with phantom sounds. Ooh. Now, the reason we call these phantom sounds, I'm going to lay this out for everybody before we get into it. There are certain sounds that are heard worldwide. Some of them are like a hum. Some of them are like a vibrational kind of a thing. And then you have some other weird kind of sounds. I think, if I'm not mistaken, not long ago, it was in the news that there was a sound in a Miami Cove, I think somewhere in Florida. I forget exactly where it was. But it was a cove along the coast, I think, or something like that, where they had a weird sound that nobody could figure out what it was. And everybody was hearing it. Finally, I think the government came out and said it was fish spawning or something in the ocean that was making this noise, supposedly. You have some weird sounds all over, Gerald. And, of course, the most famous one of all is the Taos, New Mexico hum. They call it the Taos hum. And they say that to this day you can still hear it. And it does not affect everyone because everyone's hearing is not the same. It's very much kind of in the way of like a dog whistle. Some people can hear a dog whistle and some can't. Dogs can definitely hear them. Okay. That's why they call dog whistles. But everyone sounds not on the same level. That depends on age, whether you have a hearing problem or whatever the situation. Everybody may not hear the same, but here's the interesting thing about these phantom sounds, Gerald, is that people are hearing them. More people are hearing them than people who do not hear them, put it that way, okay? That's the interesting thing about it. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Are you familiar with the Taos, New Mexico thing?
No, I don't think I might have heard of it, but I don't really know that particular one. But I do know about the sounds that's been heard all over the U.S. and all over the other continents across the world. And a lot of people are hearing them.
I have a friend in Ireland who said they have a hum in Ireland that a lot of them are hearing over there. And I think it's somewhere around County Cork or somewhere like that over there. So this is, yeah, you're very right. It is a worldwide thing going on. And there are other weird sounds too, not just the hum kind of a thing. But and they say that some of these sounds and noises are heard right before earthquakes. Now, we had an earthquake today in California, by the way, I think 4.4 magnitude. And I just wonder if anybody heard anything out of the ordinary before that happened. You know, I'd like to find out. But anyway, this could be related to, shifting underground. Tectonic plates shifting, moving around a little bit. That could be some relation to that. But some of these sounds are described as mechanical sounding things, like machinery running underground, right. Deep underground. Yeah. And we've talked about that before. There's a possibility there could be some secret government stuff going on underground where they're building more tunnels and all that or whatever, underground bases or whatever the situation is. There could also be, it's thought to be alien related, that this could possibly be aliens doing something underground to have a secret UFO bases supposedly they have in mountains and underground areas and places like that. And of course, also there's the theory of underground civilizations that may be down there doing this kind of stuff. Maybe they're running some kind of machinery. Um, there's an old saying about this sound, and this sound has been recorded. These sounds have been heard. This is nothing new. These sounds have been heard for thousands of years. People have talked about these things even before machinery was invented that we know about anyway. Well, this stuff was being talked about, and there is an old legend that what some people are hearing are the engines that drive the flames of hell. That's a bad one to think about. And what you may be hearing are the gas jets going in hell. Okay, but anyway, that's kind of bad to think about. But so, what do you think, Gerald? Do you think there's a combination of all those, or do you think there's one more that's sticking out more than the others on this, or what?
I don't know. I mean, there's a bunch of theories, just like you said. It's people hearing the hum, which they associate with the frequency of Earth, which is a low frequency. Like 7.83 megahertz, real low hum. But then people say it sounds like machinery, like you were saying, machinery, or some people are saying it sounds like sky trumpets. And I think John Fortman brought that up in chat. I mean, they attributed it almost to like
Well, and
the
then
trumpets you
off
would
the
hear in
coast.
biblical times, like a chauffeur, or the trumpets of God. That people would hear that, and other people would say it sounds like the wailing and gnashing of teeth from hell or something. The odd sounds that come up, and other people describe it as like, I keep
Well,
hearing this
and
machinery
also
dump trucks.
you also have the sonic booms that are not attributed to jets, and which have been heard for hundreds of years on the coast of South Carolina and North Carolina. They call them the Seneca guns. They're heard it's like a booming sound, and they think a lot of this can be explained as earth noises. That it may be some undersea earthquakes that are going on, or something. It's making these noises, but they've been heard for a long, long time. And you've got different types of phantom sounds, you know, that you're talking about here. But I think the most disturbing one of all is the hum, because people say it drives them crazy. I mean, it's sort of like ringing in your ears, kind of thing. How your ears ringing, you can't stop it, and that's the way this is going. It's coming from somewhere, and it drives a lot of people to distraction. I mean, it gets on their nerves and all that. So it is something real. It's nothing imagined, to a certain extent, because they can see the effect it's having on people. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, exactly. I mean, you brought up the earthquakes. And earthquakes will put out an ultrasound or an infrasound that's real low frequency. And if anybody knows anything about people describing Bigfoot as having infrasound and putting out those waves, and our government uses those waves to disturb people, and it'll make your stomach upset. It'll cause brain fog. And so I'm just wondering if maybe this hum is from the earthquakes or the shifting of the plates, like you were talking about.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and like I said, the plate shifting that can make a noise. But it looks to me like that would be more like a grinding kind of a noise. You know what I'm saying? Since they're shifting together or something. Uh, but like I say, I'm not a seismologist. I don't know. I can't really tell you for sure. But I mean, that seems like is what that would sound like to me.
Well, it puts out a
That's
frequency though, Dennis. It puts out that real low frequency right before an earthquake or during or right, as it's going on. And people can feel that frequency. Like I said, it causes stomach aches and headaches and all kinds of stuff to the human body. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was generating all around the world with all the tectonic plates moving.
Now I've got a map here. Is going to bring up. I think you know a little bit about this map here, Gerald. What is it supposed to be here?
These are like a Google map that people was collecting all the reports of where everybody was hearing these hums or these sounds. And it's, you can see how prevalent it is in the United States, especially on both coasts. But it does reach into the middle of the US also. And there's a world map showing where they collected all the sounds, where all the data, where they came from.
Very heavy in New England, isn't it?
Yeah, makes you wonder why there.
Mm-hmm. And it picks up again along the Florida coast and the Georgia coast.
Yep, the Great Lakes and
the Great Lakes is
so does it
very
have something to do with
heavy.
water?
I just wonder if there are any cave systems. If we could throw a map up of the cave systems, I believe they're following along a lot of these lines here. From what I remember, let me see what this next. We got another map here. Let's see what this one is. This is the worldwide thing.
Yep,
right?
that's supposedly where all the sounds have been located, or people's reports of hearing the hum.
Wow, look at that! I'll show you. It's got a pretty good bit, but look at Europe and the United States. My gosh.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
That's crazy. Well, no wonder they're hearing it so much in Ireland. Look at Ireland. You can't see Ireland for the color on that. That's wild. But going back to this other map a minute, the one
I mentioned Bigfoot and the infrasound. I bet if you put a cave system map and the missing people's map and the Bigfoot maps over top of that, where they're hearing the sounds, I bet they're pretty similar.
And the missing people maps. We may have a connection going on here. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I think just looking at this map, it looks like the Bigfoot and the missing people and the cave systems.
Yeah. And John Fulton says there's more reports from more highly populated areas. Of course, more people are hearing it in those places. You know, that makes sense when you think about it. But like I said, some people do not hear this. It doesn't bother some people. But more people hear it than do not hear it. In other words, it does. It's get talked about a lot more, and it affects more people than you would think. You know what I'm saying? And that makes me wonder, definitely. And a lot of people say, "Oh, it's just in their mind. They think they're hearing this stuff." That kind of looks like it's going to me. Because you have to, like we've said, we talked about this before, Gerald. Everything in the universe has every action has a reaction.
Right.
And if people are reacting to this by like getting kind of nervous or anxious, and it's very much like, I know you've heard of the Santa Ana winds in California.
Right.
Now, when the Santa Ana winds blow in California, it makes people, it makes them kind of nervous. It affects them in a bad way. Okay, that's why it's called a bad wind, by the way. That's the bad winds are blowing, and it affects people emotionally that way. You know what I'm saying? And I think these weird phantom sounds are also along the same lines of that kind of thing. They're affecting people emotionally, and that tells you, without a doubt, that there is something really going on there. In other words, it's not just imagination.
Yep. I mean, just like people like you were talking about earlier, the ringing in the ears, when they try to sleep. Well, imagine this hum day in and day out, whether you're awake or trying to sleep. It's always there. It's always prevalent.
It would have an effect on you. Nervous system anyway, definitely, I see what it would. And sound, and I've talked to people about this before, and I'm not going to get into this tonight, but a perfect way to manipulate someone, you can do it with sound. Look at just here's a good perfect example. Look at a horror movie. What would a horror movie be without a spooky sound going? It's music, weird music going on, all that, because it's playing on your emotions. You see, it's getting you nervous, it's getting you scared, putting you on the edge of your chair, because that's the way they do in horror movies. Okay, and the music is what they manipulate your emotions with. Okay, and that's a sneaky way of what? Controlling people, isn't it? When you think about it, that is putting control over people. And sound, we do know that sound has that capacity. And I think without doubt there are sound weapons out there. We've talked about that before. The weapons that are that they've used, like the Cairo incident and the Havana thing that went on, supposedly, where they actually attacked people using sound weapons in that extent. So sound is a very interesting thing. It can affect you even without, it's sort of subliminal. It can affect you
Right.
sometimes without you really even knowing it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, they have those quiet rooms where they take away complete sound, and the only thing you can hear is your own breathing and your own heartbeat. And they've had contests, or they'd give out money if you can stand certain amount of time in these rooms, but nobody has been able to do it because even the blood pulsing through your veins makes a noise, and you start hearing it when you get rid of all outside influences and sounds. It just drives you crazy.
Well, we are products of our environment. It's like John Footman. A lot of these different things can affect you, and you don't even really know it. You don't really realize it. Even the weather affects you to a certain degree. We've always said a dark, depressing, rainy day, depressing day. It kind of depresses you, makes you feel bad or whatever. Or is that, or like the old men talk about, they can feel the weather in their bones, kind of thing going on with that. And sound is the same way. Sound can affect you without you ever really truly realizing that the sensory things in your brain go off, and it affects your mood and everything else. So it's tied into your environment, definitely. Um, I remember pops in my mind years and years ago when they were after the president, Noriega. You remember him? They were trying to get him to
Right.
come out of his palace, and they like blasted music, heavy rock music, 24 hours a day with loudspeakers. He eventually came out. He came out and gave up. He couldn't take it anymore. I think. So sound can definitely be used as a weapon.
Especially depending on what frequency and what megahertz it is. I mean, the military has, microwave technology. They have ultrasound technology that they can penetrate your body with it, and this the sound waves just drives you crazy, let alone has a reaction on your body.
That's true. And Chicky Blue says, I've always wondered if the Dyatlov Pass incident was sound related by the government. That's a possibility. They could have been the recipients of an experiment. You never know. But I think a lot of people believe that it may have had a Bigfoot connection as well. So I don't know. But anyway, it's very strange. You got a lot of mysteries out there connected to stuff like that, especially when you go in the far out reaches and outer places where there's not so many people around. You never know what you're going to run into. And like I've said before, and I'll say it again, and I probably will always say it again, the national forests and all that are definitely perfect places for experimentation, without a doubt. And that is a perfect place because when you Gerald, definitely you want to look for an area without any interference, and you can do what you want to do and turn things loose or whatever you need to do, and you can watch it, guide it, experiment that way. That's what science is all about, anyway. That would be the perfect testing ground when you think about it. And that's why I tell people when you go into the national forest and places like that, be very, very careful because you are on government property, and we know that they do some freaky, freaky stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, there are some sounds. But if any of you watching today happen to hear anything like that, let us know. We'll be interested in hearing if you have heard something like that or you hear things like that going on. And of course, there is and this ties into our next subject we're going to be getting into shortly. But there is a low rumor that this whole planet is honeycombed with tunnels, passageways, completely underground that go from continent to continent and under oceans and else. Supposedly, the tunnels are there, and I have heard people talk about seeing some of these tunnels that are not man-made and they're not natural looking. There's something else altogether, and they're almost described. Now, I'm not going to say that's what it is, but they're almost described as wormholes, the holes that worms make, like in the dirt. And when they make a hole, it's round and smooth. It's not cut. It's not hammered out like a tunnel usually is when it's man made. It's hammered out or it's blown out or blasted out. It's not smooth. And so what's going on with that? These tunnels are described as being very smooth and very bizarre looking. And according to legend, these things run all over the world. It's completely honeycombed underneath with these things. Well,
It reminds
that
me
leads.
of
Go
I'll say it
ahead.
reminds me of the Star Trek episode from the original Star Trek where they had that monster in that mining community would make those smooth
Oh
tunnels
yeah.
for them, and it had some kind of acid that excreted from its body, and it just ate the rock away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just melt the rocks like that's what they're describing here. It's almost as if something went through, melted it. In other words, that way. And I don't know of anything that can do that. Do you? I mean, I never heard of
No, I don't.
anything can do that. Man-made anyway. Uh, but here's the tie-in to all of that, and I'm not going to get into that tonight because that's a show for another time. But here's the tie-in: if there are certain such things as underground civilizations, and we do know that there have been cities underground. There was some guy in Turkey found one. Remember that, Gerald? He found a city in his basement that could
Right.
hold 20,000 people.
Yep.
That the city had been abandoned for I don't know how many years, but when he went down in there exploring it, it went on and on and on for miles, and like 20,000 people could. What is the purpose of that? At one time or another, this world was inundated with an ice age, perhaps even comets that hit it, or whatever the situation was. Mankind may have had to try to survive by going underground for a period of time. It makes perfect sense when you think about it, you know? No wonder you've got stories of underground civilizations, and you've got stories of trolls being in caves and other monsters, along with Bigfoot and all these other things. And look at all the Bigfoot sightings in the cave systems, they go hand in hand together with that. So you've got a definite tie in to what's underneath our feet. And no wonder you're hearing phantom sounds from down there. I mean, that's pretty obvious. You're going to hear something like that from down there if there's a lot of action going on down there. And I think a lot of UFOs may be coming from there. Who knows what's going on
Could
down there?
be.
Because it's a vast unexplored area. It could be anything down there. My gosh.
And in a very simple explanation, other than that, could be, we talk about Tartaria, a reset, and
Mm.
past civilizations that we've built our modern civilization on top of all these ancient places.
We don't know how many times civilizations have rose and fallen. How many times that has happened over the millions of years. And that's what our next subject deals with, out of place objects. This is fascinating, folks, and it is one of the biggest mysteries you will ever see. Let me pull up my pictures here. We're gonna start showing some. We got some wild pictures to show you here tonight. Some really strange, out of place objects. But what is this? This is a big mystery, Gerald. But it can be explained a little bit by what we call folklore. Okay, that's a simple name for folklore. Look at all the legends and stories of lost civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria and Mu and all the other places. We know that there was a place like Doggerland, which was under the North Sea. in Europe. I mean, the list goes on and on of these so-called
Right.
civilizations all over the world. I believe these things, Gerald, are definitely some kind of racial memories. The memories that are getting passed down through time to us, just like the story of the Great Flood. You hear about that in almost every civilization. They talk about that. Even the American indigenous peoples, they talk about it. I mean, it's all over the world, and there's evidence of it all over the world. So this is not just something made up. This, I think, folk tales are the shadows or the ghosts of the memories of our races, of our history, our prehistory that is not recorded. What do you think, Gerald?
I agree. I mean, they talk about stories, whether they're made up or whatever, but usually they have some sort of truth or some basis that they've started this story with. And you just got to dig down in that rabbit hole and see where it leads you. And hopefully you can figure out which is fiction and which isn't.
That's true. Absolutely. And it's like I said, I was telling you before the show about what the Bible says about that. A very interesting passage in the Bible, and this is what it says. And this is a clue, okay? It's a definite clue. Sometimes you see something that just jumps out at you, really gets your attention, and this does to me. And this is what it says: if you think something is new, no, it is of olden times, which were before. There is no new thing under the sun. Now that tells you a lot right there, okay? And it just come out just this week that they have figured out that some of the techniques they used in Egypt to build the pyramids, they had hydraulics. About that a minute. That's very interesting. So people were not stupid. We've been taught things here that we're so much smarter than they were many, many years ago. That's a ridiculous idea. People years ago were very ingenious. They knew how to do things. And a lot of that art has been lost, like we talked about with the guy with the coral castle in Florida. All that stuff went to the grave with him, the way he knew how to do it. A lot has been lost, just like it says in the Lord of the Rings, and some things that should not have been lost were lost. And that's what's happened, I think, with us and a lot of our prehistory. And that's what's
Right.
on here. And that's why you're finding these weird, out of place things. I got some pictures to show here. You might want to explain what we're looking at here, Gerald. Is this
Well, there's
X-ray?
the other picture that's an X-ray of another picture that we have. I don't know if you have that one also close by. It looks
Let
just
me see
like
if I can
that.
locate. I think that's an X-ray of. If I got the picture, some of these pictures did not load. I don't know why. I think this is
That
the
one right there.
X-ray
That's an X-ray of that.
showing these things here. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that
That's
was
what is that?
discovered in
Sort
a
of like some kind of boats. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
They're
What were you
metal.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when they first discovered it, it was all, encrusted. It was found in the ocean and they didn't know what it was. And they started picking at it and they came up with this. And they still couldn't figure out what it was,
Oh.
whether it was some kind of mechanism, some kind of scrolls, encased in something. And then that's when they did the X-ray. And believe it or not, they found out that it
Mm-hmm.
was a collection of thimbles or looked like thimbles. But then as they looked at it even closer, they found that they had inscriptions and symbols on the outside of them. So now they're not really sure if those are really thimbles for sewing or if that was just a shape that they'd have on their fingers that they could read and tell stories.
That is amazing. Strange.
So when we find something, it might not look or be exactly what we think it is. It could be an ultimate different purpose for it.
Well, here's the thing, and we talked about this before the show. Metallurgy amongst primitive people was not very well known. They did work with gold and copper, but they used it only as ornamentation. They didn't make stuff out of it. There were tools or anything like that. You didn't have a lot of that. that's supposed to be sort of a lost art. And now this thing here, this is a disc that was found. I think I remember hearing about this. Doesn't this disc sort of like a star dial thing or something?
Yeah, supposedly that's the I'm going to say Fiestas disc. It's made out of clay and it was discovered in 1908, but it's supposed to be thousands of years old. And they think it's like a calendar, but they also think that there could be symbols in there that could be for astronomy, for planets and stars. So they kind of think it's kind of like the Aztec calendar
Terrestrial
or
or
like,
something.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's made out of clay. So you
Yeah,
imagine
kind
how
of like.
fragile
Well, I
that
do
was.
have
It's
the
amazing.
calendar. I got the Aztec calendar hanging on my wall over here. It
The
looks
real
kind of
one?
similar to that, definitely. Mm-hmm. Now here we've got one of my favorite out of place things here, and that's that's the very famous battery. Let's see.
Yeah, the Baghdad battery.
The Baghdad battery is a clay pot believed to be used for electroplating metal objects found around 220 C, but it is sometimes considered as a myth since there was no electricity in that period. How do they know? And others suggest that they were just containers used to hold papyrus goods. I don't think so. It looks like it had a definite determination to it of some sort.
Right. Yeah,
So
I mean,
that
that
is
was
a very
that
well-known
vase
one.
was sitting in the museum for a long time and just thought it was a vase or an urn. Oh, they actually opened or x-rayed it and found out that, hey, this could have been a battery because it had all the properties that it could make electricity. And if you look at the hieroglyphs in Egypt, you'll see a couple images where it looks like they're holding a rod with like a plasma ball on the end of it, and then there's a little vase sitting off to the side. So is that a power source for some other kind of technology?
But I mean, if they filled it up with water and it did produce like a vote and a half or something, right? You know, it did produce electricity. That's very strange. Now here's another thing you got here. These are, and I'm gonna tell you a story about that when I'll let you explain what this is here.
Well, these are the Klerksdorp spheres, which were mined in South Africa. And as they were mining that prolific deposits, they were finding these spheres inside of them, and they couldn't figure out what it was. They looked metallic, and they thought, oh well, this must have been manufactured or engineered from aliens or an ancient technology that people had at the time, and they were finding hundreds, if not thousands, of these as they were digging through this mine, and they've been collecting them ever since. And they still don't know if they were made by Earth or movements of Earth or whatever, or if some other culture actually made these and they were lost over time in these deposits.
That's amazing. Well, when I was a kid, I was sort of like an amateur archaeologist. I used to dig holes all the time. I would dig holes all over the place. My mother used to get on to me for doing that, by the way. Uh, I would dig up things. And one day I dug up a clay ball, and it was about the size of that thing on the side of it, a little small one there. This was about like probably a baseball size. Okay. And this thing had a ring carved in it in the exact center of it, all the way around. And I can remember this thing had some kind of markings on it. What it was, I don't know. And it was very unusual looking clay. It was almost white. Or I will say a very light gray color. And being a kid, being a dumb kid, if there's one thing I could go back in time, Gerald, I would take that away from myself. Okay? I'd bring it back with me. I don't know what I lost that. It was one time, but that was very prehistoric looking thing. Okay. And it
Wow.
reminds me very much of those ball. That one, especially that one with the rings around it. And it kind of looked like that. Although this thing was perfectly round. and it was, like I say, it was the size of a baseball. It wasn't a softball, a baseball, and maybe
Right.
not quite as big. Maybe not quite as big as a baseball, almost though. And it had that ring carved in it, and it had markings on it. I remember that well. And being a kid, I kept it around a while, and finally I lost it or something misplaced or something. Like I said, I was sort of Indiana Jones before there was an Indiana Jones there. Okay, but anyway, I was looking for things. I don't know what I was looking for, but as a kid, you don't have the presence of mind as you have as an adult when you're a kid. That's just the way that goes. But anyway,
Right.
I would love to have that back. Absolutely.
But if you look at that picture, if you think that okay, it's
Now
naturally
here's a
made, why would there be three grooves carved in it in the center of all these? And it's not like it was a tumbled stone in the river where it's smooth on all edges. This has some texture to it in the middle, like somebody carved those rings around it.
Well, rings like that just do not occur naturally in nature, I don't think, on a rock especially. I just don't see that happening just by being tumbled in water. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that looks like a design to me.
I agree.
But, I could be wrong. Now, here's one of my favorites right here. Gerald, you might want to talk about this one. This was found in a shipwreck. And this is a fascinating object right here. And it's called I'm gonna try to pronounce this for you. It's called an antikythera mechanism. You want to tell me about that, Joe?
Yeah, so this was found off the shore in Greece, which is the city that you just pronounced, the Antitherica, and it was a shipwreck. And they speculate that this object, which is the one on the left, is how they found it, all corroded and mineral deposits on it. And they couldn't figure out for the longest time what it was for, and they really still don't know 100% what it is. And they estimated it being 2,000 years old or older. And then somebody x-rayed it, and then they started finding
And
individual gears and mechanisms in it, and they figured out that it was actually used for the ships to calculate where the stars and planets were so they could navigate at night or on a night that they didn't have any stars
and
or
here's what
anything.
it looks like. Here- Here's a replica of it. They made one according to that. And this is, by the way, this is featured in the last Indiana Jones movie. By the way, it plays a big part in the movie. Okay, but that's the replica of it. Look at that. That's
Right.
wow. It looks like a computer.
That's what they did. Instead of,
That's
they called
wild.
it a mechanism, but that's
And
what
this
they
is
were
what,
saying
2,000
originally,
years
that it
old?
was some type of ancient computer.
That, honest to God, looks to me like the inside of a clock or something, or something like that. There's got so many gears and stuff in it. That's wild. But they've tried to recreate it to figure out exactly what it does. They really still don't know exactly what the thing does. But it was the star of the last Indiana Jones movie. I remember that because he plays a big part in showing them where it is or something like that. But anyway, and by the way, got some good news for you. They are going to make probably National Treasure 3. By the way, that ought to be
Oh,
good, hopefully.
that will be good.
We'll finally get to see what's in the president's book. Maybe. But anyway, and now I say the best for last here. Okay, this is my favorite out of place object here. I think you know what I'm talking about here. And this is the very famous hammer in the stone, not the sword in the stone, but the hammer in the stone.
Oh yeah. That
Hammer.
that's called the London Hammer, as you can see by the top. And a husband and wife were out on a walk in England, and the husband just happened to glance over and saw this metal object sticking out of a stone or a rock, and
And if you
You know,
look close, even some of the handle is still on it. Is that right?
yep, it's still got the wooden handle, and actually on the very end where it's broke off, the handle itself is actually, they say the handle is so old that it's actually starting to turn into coal or has like a coal substance.
And coal is incredibly old because it has to, and to coalesce, it has to be millions of years old. Think about that. That's amazing. And that right there is a hammerhead. I mean, there ain't no way you can look at it any different. That is a hammer, folks, and that's an iron hammer. And iron has not supposed to have been smelted since what? Iron's only been around like maybe 1,000 years or something like that, but since the Bronze Age.
Right.
Um, this is millions of years old.
So
That
so
is
the
amazing.
rock itself has been tested and been millions of years or however long they say it's been carbon dated. But if that hammer is actually a more modern hammer, how did it get in the middle of the stone? Or is the hammer actually as old as the rock?
Now, what is this here? I found this. Is this what is this?
That's
A
actually a
basin?
replica of the Baghdad batteries. So that would have went with the other slide.
Oh, they replicated them.
They're
Okay.
trying. That's when they were trying to figure out if they could actually make batteries out of them. So they didn't want to use the real one. They started making their own. That's where they did find out that it did hold an electrical charge.
That hammer, though, that's freaky. But like you said, what we said earlier, this is evidence that civilizations have risen and fallen, I think, over thousands of years and times and period and times forgotten. How many times has that happened? You have to wonder. How many times has the atomic bomb been invented?
Yep.
Or something like or along the same lines. You gotta wonder. It does leave you with a whole lot more questions than you do have answers for.
Well, as you can see behind me, we collect crystals and spheres and towers and stuff. Well, when we're out
Mhm.
walking, we'll pick up a weird rock or something. Well, Jane found one that has an indentation in it, and part of the rock is missing, and inside of it is a metal screw inside the rock. So we have that upstairs.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the screws, of course, screws are a modern day invention.
So
A
how did
hundred
that
and
end
some
up
odd years
inside
ago,
of the
they had to
rock?
put everything together with you had to put everything together with pegs. You didn't even have nails and screws. Uh, what are they doing in rocks? that's
Right.
that's a
That's
question you
our
got to ask.
question. How did we find a rock that has a metal screw inside it? And the only way we saw it was because the side was chipped off or missing, and the screw is inside that rock, embedded.
And John Fulton says either a modern hammer went back in time or iron was worked 400 million years ago. You got to pick one. That absolutely did some time drop his hammer. Forgot to pick it up or whatever. That's another question. Uh, what's going on with that? It's freaky stuff. But
You
to
know,
me, this is one of the most amazing mysteries around. Uh, like I said, it opens a lot more questions than there are answers for.
the only other explanation is the explanation that they use for like the pyramids, where they try to say that they had a way to soften or melt liquefy rock. So maybe at some time during the earth, we went through a transformation and the bedrock and the rock softened, and then our buried stuff became embedded, sunk into the soft rock, and then hardened back up. I don't know.
Well, too, they have found drill holes in a lot of these ancient ruins. They had drills; they could drill into rock when they wanted to. They could definitely do. They could definitely drill into human skulls because we've seen operations they performed on human skulls. Okay, when people were alive and they were taking the pressure off the brain or whatever. These people were not dumb, okay? They were brilliant people. They had to work with, and they worked around things, you know? It's like I've always said, you must recognize your limitations. But if you can't go under them and you can't go over them, at least you can go on the other side of them. You know what I'm saying? You can kind of go around your limitations. And these people were very good at going around their limitations. Absolutely. Oh yeah, that's amazing. Really is amazing. But those are the out of place objects. I think that's all the pictures I got on that, Gerald. Yeah. But those are the out of place objects. And why are they out of place? What's going on with that? You know?
Right.
But like there is evidence. I think if we look and very careful, I'm gonna go out on a limb with this, but I think there may be evidence around us, very well hidden evidence of time travel. There could be some instances of that going on here. You know, that's a possibility. And maybe from time to time we catch it. And who knows? Maybe somebody's messing around with our timelines. You never know about that either. You know, they're messing around with history for their own purposes. That would be a bad thing to do when you think about it. You would not want to go back in time, screw around with stuff. You you run the risk of rupturing the time space continuum doing stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Um, I remember that Star Trek episode where they were on a planet that was modeled after the days of the gangsters. You know, remember that? Remember that
Yeah.
show? And at
Right.
the end, McCoy said, "I don't know how this is going to affect everything, but I forgot and left my communicator." and at the end, Kirk says, "Well, we'll come back in about 50 years and see what really happens on this planet since they take that communicator apart." You know, uh, that would have to be definitely something that would, if there's something behind in time, and the right people found it, it might change everything completely. You know, when you think about something like
Absolutely.
that. Mhm.
You know, it makes you wonder about time travel, or, has an alien civilization came here and gave technology to old civilizations, and then that's why it's lost so deep in the earth? Or
Well, here's the freaky
how does
thing.
that stuff show up?
Here's the freaky thing, Gerald. What if the aliens are really us, coming from the future, trying to warn us about something or trying to save us from ourselves? What if they're not really coming from Alpha Centauri? Maybe they're coming from our future, and we are what they look like 10,000 years from now or something. That's a possibility that nobody ever talks about, but that's a possibility. That could be an explanation for some of that stuff. Here's what I was always taught, and what I've always taught myself. You look for something that can explain a lot of things around that subject, and that might be your possible answer. The more it explains, the more it covers, might be your possible answer. And you have to look at some stuff like that, Gerald. Just like this thing, this mystery we're looking around tonight. The iron and all this stuff is that it's not supposed to be there, but yes, it is. Um, did somebody go back in time and help somebody out a little bit? We're giving them an iron, a way to do iron, or what? You got to wonder. And when you go back to the time, and I'm not going to get into this tonight because it's another subject for another time, but look at the so called fallen angels, the Nephilim. They supposedly gave mankind the ability to wage war with weapons of war. They supposedly gave women cosmetics. They supposedly gave us a lot of stuff that we didn't have. They seeded mankind with all the bad stuff, okay, that we really didn't need, okay? I don't know about the cosmetics, but all the other bad stuff we didn't need, okay? They gave it to us. And it's just like that old story about Prometheus, who actually gave mankind the ability to make fire. The gods punished him for doing that. You wasn't supposed to do that. Now they'll be like gods. They'll be smart. They'll have and you go back and look at other peoples like the primitive peoples. Now I'm going to say this: look at all the indigenous people of the North American continent. Not a single one of those tribes ever the wheel. Think about that a moment, okay? Now, what if somebody went back in time to some of the American tribes and say, "Hey, let me show you how to make a wheel in a car"? And, you know, what if somebody really screwed things up and done that? You gotta wonder. You gotta wonder if maybe some of that might be going on, tampering with our timelines. You know?
Right. Well, just like your earlier observation or your phrase, it's like Octan's razor. The simplest explanation most likely is the truth.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what the people that believe that everything is a matrix or a computer program running, okay, and it has glitches. It's like our friend Jessica has her show name, A Glitch in the Matrix. Some of these glitches may occur from time to time. Just like John Fortman says about the bird that gets stuck in the air and somebody hits it with a broom and it finally moves. Uh, some of this stuff is going on. What's going on with that? Are we running a simulation or what? Are we in the middle of some kind of a simulation thing going on? What if, and here's what somebody asked, said, what if God actually, instead of creating things like we think he did, what if he created everything as a computer simulation? And he's running everything in the back. And we're part of that simulation. What if? You got some really freaky questions there. Yeah. But anyway, you have to wonder when you run into mysteries like this, and that's what makes them, to me, that's what makes them so interesting. They are mysteries. They have really no possible other explanations for things. Wonder, it's like what was that? Sherlock Holmes said, once you eliminate the possible, and whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the answer. You got to wonder about that.
Yep.
But it's fascinating stuff. I know that is absolutely. The sound of music would change with the hertz levels from 40 to 440 hertz. A lot of things get changed. There could be some glitches out there, definitely. I have seen evidence with my own eyes that kind of is freaky to me. That you thought were real or thought that, and they change on you. And I've had friends tell me they've had researchers and writers who have had these experiences where they go back to the information and it's changed. They go back and look at the information and somehow or another it's changed. I know there's one writer where they look up an incident that happened in like the year 1898. And they said a building burned down in 1898. Okay. They had all this wrote down and they go back and recheck the records. And they go back later and it's 1896, not 98. What's going on with that?
Right.
And they said he said it wasn't just me. Several other people saw this. And when we went back and looked, the date was different.
Huh.
And there was one instance where they were looking for and this was in in overseas in the churches. A lot of times they have memorial plaques. You know what I'm talking about? Memorial plaques in the churches.
Yep. In the cornerstone.
And they were looking for this woman that had died, and she was connected to that church, and they could not find a memorial plaque for her. And one guy goes back and said, "What do you?" We looked all over that church. We looked everywhere. And the guy said, "Well, there's one there because I saw it yesterday." And they go back and look, and there it is. And they said it was not there that day that we were here looking for it. It was not there. And they said, "Well, look at the plaque. It's been there for years." It looks like it has anyway. You run into stuff like that. Weird stuff. Like I said, it's almost as if somebody's tampering with things in the background here and trying to pull one over on us.
Well, there's so many Mandela effects out there that everybody's bringing up. And just like John Fortman said, I always heard Bernstein Bears, but now they're saying it's something different.
Yeah, that's true. And The interesting thing about it is, what is your reality one day may not be the reality of the next day. That's freaky to think about too sometimes. Uh, if something like that's going on, but I think a lot of the Mandela effect is a trick of the human mind. We preconceive ideas sometimes without really looking at things. You know what I'm saying? Just like we've talked about, seeing images where they're not really images there. Your brain is trying to find one there. I think our brain can trick us with information like that sometimes. I think a lot of the Mandela effect is a brain thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Is the way that we look at stuff. I don't think it's a time thing. A lot of it. Now, I didn't say all of it. I said a lot of it, I think can be explained. Just like people say, like the very famous Chick-fil-A thing, which was supposed to at one time thought to be Chick-fil-A. We leave the A out of it, and we think it's that. You know what I'm saying? It's not. Maybe it's not been changed. But we think it is, and we think something so much we almost make it true in our own minds. We almost, in other words, manifest our own reality if we're not careful. See what I'm saying? I don't know. I hope does my audio sound okay to you, Joe?
It's kind of garbly every once in a while.
Okay, maybe I'm not getting a little too close to the mic.
No, I think it's more of an internet connection is what it sounds like. It's like it's going in and out a little.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
it could be.
your picture's been really good. It's just your audio.
I got some storms around out there. I think it could have something to do with it too. Mirror, mirror on the wall is now a magic mirror on the wall. But see, we get things in our mind. We think it's that. And it may not necessarily have been that. We just think it is. We're manifesting our own reality sometimes. And that's what's fooling us, I think. Just like we try to manifest images when they're not really there. It's because your brain is looking for that pattern. Our brain is constantly looking for patterns to make sense out of stuff. And that can trip us up.
Well, I know the whole Fruit of a Loom cornucopia. The company itself says they have never had that image on any of their product, but I remember it. And some lady actually found an old piece of garment that has still had the tag on it, and it had the cornucopia fruit on it. So how does the company explain that?
I don't know. That's strange too. Well, that's like Jif peanut butter, Jiffy peanut butter. A lot of people swear it's Jiffy peanut butter, and it never has been Jiffy. It's always been Jif. Or has it? That's a weird part. You never know. Somebody's messing with stuff. There you go. Well, this has been really a really good show tonight. And like I said, this is a this conundrum wrapped up in a mystery there, okay? It's a very interesting thing. Absolutely. But I would tell everyone out there do some more research on it. It's fascinating. You got some very curious rabbit holes to go down out there, and go look at some of this stuff. There's a lot more than just what we showed you tonight that people are finding in out of place objects, and a lot more phantom sounds that are going on out there as well. You have that as ongoing problem in a lot of areas of the world. So if you hear something, maybe it's not just your imagination.
I think we have to do a show on Mandela effects one of these days.
Yeah, we'll have to get into that deeper one day. What we need to do is get up a lot of examples to show everybody on that.
There's a lot out there.
I think you've got planned next week. We're going to be doing what? Religious miracles?
Yeah, statues and paintings that either have the tears or the blood coming from the paintings or the eyes of the statues, and religious monuments or statues, and I mean, there's just all kinds of them, and it's really strange.
Yeah, that's right. That's an ongoing controversy in the church, and I think that there is a Vatican team that does nothing but investigate these things to find out if they're true miracles or related, how they may be related to saints. And of course, one of the most famous cases is Padre Pio. Padre Pio, who had stigmata,
Right.
um, the wounds of Christ, and he did not even want to talk about it. He didn't really want to show it. It was something that was very personal to him,
Yep.
and that makes it interesting when you run into stuff like that because he didn't want to get any recognition out of it. It wasn't all about himself. It was more or less sort of a thing between him and his maker, kind of a thing. You run into those kind of situations, but and there's that very famous movie. I'll find the name of it again. I think it was called The Tomb or something like that, where they found that tomb. You ever watch? Did you watch that movie?
I don't think I've
Where
seen
they
it.
supposedly found the tomb of Christ, the real tomb of Christ in the Middle East. You remember that? Did you ever watch that?
I've seen documentaries on it, but I don't think I've seen the movie
This
itself.
is a movie, and what it was, the Vatican. They found the archaeologist. She is a Jewish archaeologist, and she, of course, not a believer in Jesus. And she's very scientific, though. She's a scientist, and she has proof that it's not that Jesus actually never left the tomb, kind of thing. You gotta watch this movie. It is a great movie. I can't think of the name of it. I'll find it out. I'll find out what it is. Anyway, it is. It sounds like a very agnostic, faith killing kind of a movie, but it's not. It ends very well. I'm not going to tell you how it ends, but it ends very well, and it ends on a very uplifting kind of a note. Um, but it is a fascinating movie. And but the premise is, what if Jesus did not supposedly, in other words, he left the body in the tomb and they wrote. Um, it is a great movie. You need to watch it, and I think it's on Prime or something like that. But and Antonio Banderas stars in it, but he plays a priest, and the Vatican sends him to investigate this. And they're going to investigate it because they want to know for sure this could destroy the whole faith. This would destroy the whole faith of
Right.
Christianity. Great movie, great movie. It was why it didn't do very good at the box office. It was a great movie. One of the best movies Antonio Banderas has ever done. He plays Zorro, of course, which was good too.
Yep.
But it's
I've
a
seen
great
that
movie.
one.
I think it was called The Tomb, or something like that. I found out exactly what the name of it was. I might have to go watch that again. It was a great movie. All right, well, I think we pretty well covered phantom sounds and out of place objects for tonight. And you want to tell everybody what you got coming up on your next show?
Yeah, like I said, we have the Night Owl Lounge on Wednesday nights. So come over and hang out with us late night, and it's just us in the chat talking, and whatever comes up, that's what we talk about. We just hang out and have a good time. Saturday night on Robert Bauer, The Nexus, and also our new channel, Geezer Geeks, on YouTube. We'll be broadcasting our Saturday night podcast there, where we have Jim Goodall, Robert Bauer, the professor, myself, Conspiracy Music, and we just have a lot of fun on Saturday nights there. And then Sunday night at 6 p.m., we have our Piercing the Veil, and we have Miss Simpson coming on, and we're going to be talking about time travel and UFOs and frequencies and vibrations. So we're going to be having a good time. And then Monday night, we'll be back here on the road less traveled.
That sounds good. Sounds good. And this Wednesday night, 8 o'clock p.m., not 9, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central, I will be doing my next seminar on Monster Hunting 101. Okay, we're going to be talking about cryptidology. That's the study of monsters. Okay, you do not want to miss this one. It's gonna be a good one. And I've got all of course laid out for it. You're gonna love it. Okay. Anyway, that's coming up Wednesday, and of course, Paranormal Point of View will be Friday night. And I'm supposed to, I think, have Mr. Hardy Owens on that one Friday night. So we'll see how that goes. And like I said, next week we'll be doing the religious stuff, and we'll definitely probably throw the Shroud of Turin in there again with some of this. That's a really fascinating thing too. So we might talk a little bit about that as well. But we will definitely see where we go on the next road less traveled. Absolutely.
right.
I appreciate you all being here tonight. Absolutely appreciate your support. You got any final thoughts on all this, Gerald?
Well, just like Dennis has said previous, make sure you sign up for the membership, the hunt club, and you never know what you'll end up getting. I mean, anything from nice stickers.
Yep. Oh yeah. I'll be throwing some of those out on you.
And if
maybe
you subscribe and Dennis tells me, I will also send you some Midwest Night Watcher stickers.
Oh yeah.
So if you subscribe to Dennis's membership, let us know and we'll get some stickers out to you.
Oh yeah. All right. Okay. We may have to just one night we might have to slip a little bit of a contest in here, Gerald, just see how things liven things up a little bit here. Yeah. We may
but
have
unfortunately,
to do that.
just like my license plate says, we're out of time.
Oh yeah. I got that here. There it is. Yeah. Out of time. It come off of Marty's car. Okay. Marty left that.
Maybe next week
the tag was.
Maybe next week we'll do a StreamYard.
I'd put that on my truck.
A StreamYard random drawing for some stickers or something.
There you go. Sounds good. That's Crystal says she needs some of those Midwest ones too for her collection. Okay.
There you go. We got Midwest. People can take their choice. We got Midwest. We got the Night Owl Lounge.
Yeah. And if they join the Shadow Hunters Club there, they might get some free swag too.
Get some. If you join the club, the membership, you'll get some of these stickers. And we got Chiro Sounds, Raise Your Vibrations. So we got plenty of stickers to give away if you guys join the membership.
I got the T-shirt.
Yep,
I'm
wearing our Night Watchers T-shirt.
Yeah, that one. Yeah,
and you have one of those.
That's the one I got. Yep. Kyle Smith says he wants them all. Okay. All right. Okay, well, folks, you just stick with us. Who knows what you might end up with? You never know. Okay. All right. We appreciate you being here tonight. My last thoughts on this is, if you find anything out of place, call me, okay? Because I definitely want to check it out. We'll see if we can find a place for it. Absolutely. Well, appreciate you all being here tonight. This has been a fascinating hour or so. We went way over an hour, as a matter of fact. And you come back and see us again next week, Monday night, God willing, and the creeks don't rise, for another episode of The Road Less Traveled. Until then, hope you have a fantastic rest of the week, and everything goes for you the way you want it to go. And we will see you once more on The Road Less Traveled.
Love y'all. Keep looking up.